Hey, how's it going, everybody? Carter Sally here at Bloody, the product manager. I've been doing keyboards, mice, and headsets in the peripheral industry, starting as a professional player myself back in 2003. Brought the first mechanical keyboard to the market. Since then, we've seen a lot of changes take place, but not necessarily from an input standpoint. We've just seen it happen through a housing standpoint around keyboards, housing 80s technology. We had a lot of questions regarding optical switch technology, and so just like to cover a few things for everyone, the most frequently asked questions, and try and explain a little bit about some of the technologies and how they work. First of all, so we actually found that the technology of light, there's nothing faster than light, is a better solution to an age-old technology for input. So how that really works is we have a switch here. This is a brown linear LK3, which is also known as Libra. And the slider goes down and we have a horizontal infrared beam actually going through at a horizontal standpoint through the switch. As the slider comes down, it's able to detect that at a digital level. That's going to be obviously much, much faster. We can detect it at a 0.2 ms. Versus a mechanical, due to the metal-to-metal contact as well as corrosion and just the inherent way that it works, is looking at anywhere from a 15 to 25 millisecond delay, and then there's an inherent reset point. We're able to change that, and I think we can all agree that nothing is faster than light. If we're using light to detect the actual input and actuation, do I lose the click? Simple answer is absolutely not. Since we're using light as a detection from a horizontal standpoint, or optical beam being built into the PCB of the board, it allows us to actually spend an entire majority of the time of the switch itself only improving key feel. Because the switch is actually mimicking that of a mechanical. Its functionality is only to produce a sliding motion up and down. So we're actually able to implement higher force clicks, even very, very smooth linears, because all we're focused on is actually a slider going up and down, breaking an optical beam. This allows us to really focus on key feel, giving us a huge advantage over using a traditional mechanical switch, which inherently has to have a function as it's pushing down on metal-to-metal corrosion. What is so unique about the optical feature and nano coating that we're allowed to, that we're able to implement into our boards, everything is enclosed and housed in the PCB. The switches themselves are just dummy switches that are modular and easy to pop in. They're nothing more than a slider, but we've nano coat 4 times the PCB with all the IR and all of the electronics housed within the PCB, which is completely water resistant, completely waterproof, while the switches are also able to be popped out and washed individually. So if any sugar or any buildup is actually on the switch, it can be cleaned individually and replaced without harm. Fortunately, that's not the case. Bloody also has created their own micro switches, LK switches, for the mice themselves. They can be found in the SP30 as well as the SP80, which I have here. What that means is the same 0.2 ms that you're gaining from the speed of light on the keyboard can then be translated to the micro switches on your mouse as well. The standard input lag is generally around 16 ms on most micro switches. That of course ranges anywhere from 8 to upwards of 50. We're able to achieve the 0.2 ms just like you saw on our keyboards with our optical micro switches. Same type of technology. It's a micro switch where the stem is being broken by a beam instead of that of metal-to-metal contact. This is very crucial in a lot of games. If you were to imagine this being your trigger finger in an FPS, you are substantially faster at 0.2 ms than at the best baseline of a metal-to-metal micro switch at 8 ms. Something to keep in mind, and will continue to be brought out through a multitude of mice products in the future here from Bloody. We are currently very much focused on the benefits of the speed that this technology can impact. And that's why we focus entirely on the input of 0.2 ms and zero latency. And in the future, as we continue to work with a lot of the big game developers and their engines, we hope to be able to offer maybe some pressure sensitive key types, but we want to make sure that we don't compromise any type of latency when we deliver these types of technology. So in the future, you may see optical pressure sensitive, also sometimes known as analog, but that is also very dependent on how we are able to implement that into the game engines natively, so that we don't increase input lag while and work backwards from what we've already accomplished. Much like that of when the mechanical market blew up for gaming, it started with a simple black and a blue switch, or a clicky and a linear. We really wanted to focus on introducing the technology of optical and the speed of optical, and offering a very simplistic choice based on our research and our 5 years of testing this method, where we focused on the actuation point that works best with this model, as well as the actual travel force. So in the future, we absolutely might have that option, and we are always looking to innovate and push the bleeding edge. But currently, we wanted to make sure that we could offer two very viable solutions, that being a very smooth linear at 45 and a very distinct clicky that has an actuation and click spot on at 0.2 ms, right, both at 45 grams. The performance is the same amongst both. It is literally a personal preference and choice of key feel and how the user might want an audible and tactile feedback, or very smooth and linear. The performance is unchanged by whatever that preference of feel is. So we get a lot of feedback or questions regarding our 0.2 ms claims. The under a millisecond response time for all of the LK series is in a lab, and we understand that our limitations, like all limitations, are where the bottleneck is. So while we the optical beam and its rated play, as well as a conducted test without a USB cable, has produced on every switch from the LK series at 0.2 ms or better, we are limited from a true input factor at 1 ms, which is a USB polling rate limitation. We do maintain that 0.2 ms is the capability of these switches, and at any point in time that the polling is increased, where we're able to reduce the latency of a USB cable and or input, our switches will be able to perform at optimal level of 0.2 ms.